Good morning and welcome. It is New Year's almost. I hope you all had a wonderful holiday, great Christmas out there for all of you. It was a weird one, that's for sure. I'm Joe Jaquin, CEO of the Patriot Trading Group, and our toll-free number, 800-951-0592, the website at allamericangold.com, and just a different feel. With obviously with COVID, the holidays, just not what they used to be. I hope that changes. They always keep saying, hey, we're going to go back to normal. No, we're not. You never go back. Right after, you think about the financial crisis and the Patriot Act and, like 9/11, right? You never go back. And things are going to be very, very different. It was just, odd. Christmas growing up, at least for me, was a lot of family. A lot of family. And, Arizona's a little different. I will say this, there's not a lot of family here. There, everyone's from somewhere else. But with COVID now, it just kind of odd. Usually, a lot of times you do something. Whether back when the kids were younger, maybe we'd go to Disney World or Disneyland, or maybe you take a vacation somewhere. You go to Hawaii, or maybe you go down to Mexico. None of that stuff. So just different. My mom. I was talking to my mom, and God bless her heart. My mom is going to be 78 years old, and she lives in Syracuse in New York, and, the full-blown lockdown there. She spent Christmas at home. For her, she was very upset. My mom goes to church 2 or 3 times a week, okay? She always has. That's been it's a big part of who she is, and she was upset because she had called to go to mass, and called. I'm like, called? I'm like, what are you talking about? Called? She goes, yeah. Well, you got to call. You got to call the church in New York because they're only allowed to have 25% occupancy. And I need to, you got to call to make, hey, I'm coming to church. And you know how it is. You call them the C&Es, right? The Christmas and Easter bunch. And so people that don't go to church, they go twice a year. I go to Christmas and I go to Easter. Well, apparently, when she called, the church told her, hey, we're sorry, we're full. And my mom's like, what do you mean you're full? Well, it's Christmas and blah, 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 and we're only we're at occupancy, and would you like to be put on the waiting list? Which she did. She was like, I'm really not happy. I go to, I'm there all the time, and I'm like, even during the height of the pandemic when she couldn't go to church, my mom would watch it on TV. I think at one point her church had like a mass like in the parking lot, like my mom was there. That's just what she's not going to miss it. And then she was all happy because I guess the state of New York or the bishop or somebody raised it to 33%. So she was able to, long story short, she was able to go to mass. And even though she couldn't be with family, she was really happy about that. So I just thought, every state's a little different. Some states are more locked down than others, and it's just, I don't know. I wonder what the future is going to hold for us as, again, we I don't know, seemingly turning our back against morality. Drugs are legal just about everywhere. I guess not everywhere, but it seems like it. Even here in Arizona, the recreational marijuana thing starts here pretty soon. The president signed the COVID bill. Did you see that? That terrible piece of legislation. He signed it And again, I wish he had done it right away because these people that really do need the money, they're going to miss a week of checks because of trying to get more money out there. But again, we knew this all along. We're going to get another round of stimulus as well. Brexit is official. I just saw the EU nations have approved it now. We got a market that's up. Gold's up. Silver's up. Silver's up really well. As everybody's looking at more dollar weakness. We've got big deficits coming. 2021 looks like it's going to be worse, if you can believe this, worse than 2020 as far as U.S. deficits. And then a major announcement about who's number one in the world. China, already the largest consumer of stuff. The latest now, China in the next 7 years, and I'm going to tell you this, that's generous, will surpass the United States as the largest economy in dollar terms. Already, China is the largest economy in terms of stuff. Because our dollar's all inflated, we're still in dollar terms number one. But they whacked 5 years off of it. China wasn't supposed to be number one to 2033. Now they're saying 2028. I think it's going to be a little sooner than that. Patriot Radio News Hour. We'll be back after the break. 800-951-0592. And listen, this is just what it is. You go back pre-NAFTA and GATT. So for those of you that don't know, North American Free Trade Agreement and GATT, this was free trade. That I guess that's the easiest way to put it. And free trade was sold to us. Very similar to how we got our banking system, really. Sold to us by bankers. See, most people don't realize this. They want to think that it was sold to us, right, by, it's going to be great for the American public. Right? Be great for you. Stuff will get cheaper. And let's face it, China, they got a lot of people. India, they got a lot of people. And they all need refrigerators, air conditioners, televisions, watches. They need cars. They need all this stuff. And we're going to be the country that provides it for them. That's what they told us. And think about this. This is something where, go back to Nixon, right? This was going on all the way back then. We didn't know it then. And then, supply side economics. Ronald Reagan, right? Larry Kudlow, right? That guy's still around. Sounded great. And of course, in the 90s, all of it became law. We got rid of tariffs. Life was going to be grand. See, but that's really wasn't what was going to happen. See, and the banks, they knew this. First of all, what did they want? They wanted access. Hey, we need access to, a couple billion more people. We can sell them credit cards, right? And bring all of this stuff, right? This is and for companies, the banks were telling them, hey, this is going to be great for you guys. Look how much it cost to employ an American worker. And of course, you had NAFTA, you had unemployment insurance, OSHA requirements, workers' comp, and FICA, right? Payroll tax. I mean, you had all this HR, right? HR. You couldn't just fire people. You had to have cause, and they wanted a lunch break and a smoke break and a bathroom break and this break and that break. They went on strike. Get rid of all that. And it is so amazing is in the early 90s, China's economy hardly was a blip on the radar screen as far as the size of their economy. I mean, it barely registered. And of course, nobody, China just sold stuff to each other. They didn't sell anywhere else. And this is how quickly that things are happening. And when you start thinking about the Chinese and becoming the largest economy in the world in 2000. So this is probably 4 or 5 years after NAFTA and GATT. They went from somewhere close to zero as far as their share of the world economy to about 3.6%. So if you took all the nations and added their GDPs together, China was only a little over 3.5% of the whole world. That doesn't sound like a lot because it wasn't. Now, China makes up 18%. It's probably a little higher than that because the data, they've got the data isn't quite current. There's always a lag. But now they're 18% of the whole world. Just them all by themselves. And they're saying, hey, by 2028, China's going to be the largest economy in the world. The problem is, even by 2030, now, just so you know, last year they did the same thing. And they said, hey, it wasn't going to be to 2033. So China makes a 5-year jump in 1 year. Of course, and they were talking about COVID, that China's the only major economy in the world that is going to see positive GDP growth in 2020, the only one. The United States is going to be down about 5% in GDP terms. Now, that's kind of funny, right? We're like, stocks are at all-time highs. And of course, we understand we've spent, I don't even know how many, we're going to go at least, or at least $1 trillion into debt. So we spent about an extra $2 trillion last year to be down 5%. Of course, this year we're going to spend even more than that. But the Center for Economic and Business Research said China's skillful management of COVID-19 will boost its relative growth compared to the United States and Europe in the coming years. And you know what else is funny? India will be the third largest in the world by 2030. And I think that's probably 2028. And again, very shortly thereafter, both India and China will be bigger than the United States. But China, by 2035, their economy is going to be more than 1/3 larger than ours in dollar terms. So in real terms, what are we talking about? Twice as much. They said that China's, their lockdowns and all that allowed them to beat the COVID, if you will, for lack of a better term. Of course, they've created it there in their lab, but, I can't prove that. They said that China's economy is to grow by 5.7% annually until 2025. And then 4.5% annually from 2026 to 2030. Now, remember, even, for the last, I don't know, 10, 12 years, what have we averaged? Somewhere around 2%, give or take, right? We had we had a couple of quarters of 3%, right, with the Trump tax cuts. And even 2% is kind of something that wink, wink, nod, nod, if you will. But one of the things they mentioned in this article is that not only is it benefiting from the handling of COVID, they said policymaking in China targeting industries like advanced manufacturing. Right now, you think about, right, we're talking about chips, we're talking about high-tech stuff, we're talking about all the things that the president was trying to restrict the Chinese on. They seem to have centralized control at one level, but quite a free market economy in other areas. They said the average Chinese person will remain poorer in financial terms than that of the Americans, even after China passes. In other words, here's what they're saying. China's got a lot of room to go. They're saying that the average person in China still only going to be making around the equivalent of 12,000 U.S. dollars, and they're still going to beat it. Well, you got to remember, right? They've got 4 or 5 times the amount of people we do. But here's the thing. They said that the Chinese digital currency is going to be one of the main drivers in China becoming the most dominant financial force in the world. And kind of think about this. I mean, China's headed to be at least 1/4 of the entire world's gross domestic product, at least that much. And China wants to leverage that power, right? When you think about where China wants to be, and I said this all along, the president had it right. Joe Biden does not. Right? Joe Biden is in the bankers' pockets. They're getting ready. You need to get ready. This is not stoppable. Right? We can't go back. I wish we could. And, well, the president tried, right, with all the tariffs and all those things, but here's the realities. The United States is screaming in debt. Do you know that we went about $450 billion in debt in 2 months? In another couple of weeks, we'll find out December's number, right? Let's exclude stimulus. Right? Let's set that $900 billion aside. We're going to have a deficit for the first quarter of 2021, fiscal 2021. That's approaching what, $700 billion? Plus, we just, here's another $900 billion of stimulus. Now, some of that is just going to get reallocated, so it's not as bad. See, so it's not all bad news. Right? But we're already going to be over $1 trillion in debt in 1 quarter. And we know this. What do we know? We know we got a bigger one coming. And remember, I warned you, get ready to hear all this talk about all things digital. Japan. Let's see. We've already heard from the EU, right? The European Union, right? We've already know China's going to be first. They're already doing it. Japan gearing up its preparation for issuance of its digital currency in both public and private sectors, following swift moves by China and some other countries to do the same. Virtual money issued by central banks around the world called the Central Bank Digital Currency, or CBDC, not CBD. No. Not that. CBDC. That last C is the important one. And it's used for cashless payments via smartphones, electronic cards, just as cash used to be. While some private organizations, and including one established by Facebook, right, that was that Libra, which I don't even know where it's happened to that, also plans to introduce their own digital currencies. We'll see, right? Now, remember the Ripple story. Ripple used to be the third largest digital coin until the SEC came around and said, you're a security now. Patriot Radio News Hour. Are you ready for the digital currency? We'll be back right after the break. We have no idea what's coming. Well, I shouldn't say that. We do have an idea. We know. You should know. We can't go $2, $3, $4, $5 trillion in debt every year. Our central bank is monetizing, and now got to monetize even more, right? Because we have so much debt that it's not sellable. Well, I shouldn't say that. Our debt is sellable. It is. But not at, the 10-year note's at 0.95 today. Watch out, by the way. I'm going to give you a number. If the 10-year note yields more than 1.02%, look out. We could see a 10-year note well above 2% immediately thereafter. I don't think the central bank's going to allow for that. But here's the thing. Our debt is sellable, just not at 1%. Right? Look at it this way. What does the Fed tell us that they want inflation? They want it above 2%. Okay? Now, we can argue about what the inflation rate really is, but who cares? Let's just use 2%. Okay? We're going to give them the benefit of the doubt. Wink, wink, nod, nod. Okay, you say 2%. We know it's way more than that, but okay, 2%. It would stand to reason that if you wanted to lend money, which is what you do when you buy bonds, what you do when you buy stocks, that you would want to return greater than the rate of inflation. And probably what? At least double the rate of inflation. If inflation's 2, I want at least 4. Right? Because if inflation's 2 and I only get 2, well, I'm really not making anything. But if inflation's 2 and I only get 1, right? I know, listen, this is like, first grade math class, right? 2 minus 1, right? You're losing money. You're losing money, right? Jamie Dimon, I wouldn't buy treasuries with a 10-foot pole. And so our central bank, in order to keep rates low, see, because they say the Fed's funds rate's, near 0. But they know, really, here's what we've learned. That means absolutely nothing. It's garbage. Now, you could say the Fed funds rate's 20%. You could say it's negative 20%. But as long as they're the ones doing the buying, right, they can at least try to keep rates low. In other words, nobody's buying treasuries at these rates. Nobody. Only a fool would do that. And this is kind of where you enter into what I would call the Japification of the United States, right? Our central bank's going to be buying everything, trying to keep prosperity alive. And what we learned from Japan is we're getting ready whenever I think this is the last big bubble, and then China takes over, right? And we suffer through decades of little to no economic growth. But now we find out, Japan says that the speed at which the People's Bank of China has moved has been incredible. China's prompted the rest of the world to follow suit. He expects that the Chinese central bank will officially issue a digital renminbi no later than 2022, when Beijing will be hosting the Olympics. Ooh. I didn't know that. So there you go. You learned something new. This is why you listen. So Japan has said, hey, guess what? China's got the Olympics coming in 2022. It's going to be official. And when you start thinking about the Chinese, they're going to have the largest economy in the world sometime between now and 2028. Okay, that's the parameter. Remember, in just 1 year, they cut off 5. So a year ago at this time, China was going to take over the United States in 2033. Now it's 2028. And I caution you, think about if China did that, think about with Social Security, how soon that's going to run out now. 20 million people not paid into Social Security. This is another one of these things to add up to. But getting back to digital, China is comfortably leading the way because the country has big ambitions, not only for itself, but for the digital currency. First, it's going to provide a sizable boost to the Chinese economy. Second, it will concurrently further increase the Chinese government's control of Chinese society, which is all the reason, listen, that's coming for us, right? Can't get more Big Brother than digital currency. The newest part, and the new currency, part of their ambitious plan to strengthen the international position of the renminbi at the expense of all others. They say number one on the list, right, is going to be the euro. The euro now is going to have to, and we're seeing it now, right? The euro's been gaining strength, and I told you, get ready, a lot of dollar weakness. The European Union is fighting the Chinese here because the European Union, they're second, right? The second most used currency in the world. China's going to lap them quick, but they've got to have huge pressure to strengthen that currency. It's almost a double whammy for the United States, okay? Not long ago, go back 25 years, almost all retail payments in China were made in cash. All of it. They didn't even have a credit card, right? It's really hard, when you think about like oxen and rice fields, and that was China. Not anymore. I'm telling you right now, Liberty Revolt starts this next Monday from 5 to 7 a.m. on 1360. You guys got to start listening to Dylan. It's incredible what he knows. Incredible. He's going to educate the heck out of you about China. So 25 years ago, everything was cash. I'm going to update you on what's happening there right now. Patriot Radio News Hour. We'll be back right after the break. And I know, right? We're talking about COVID. We're talking about stimulus. Sign this, sign that. How big's the deficit? We got the special Georgia election next week. We got the big day on the 6th, whether or not Trump's going to have to, if Trump can figure out a way. We got, if not, Joe Biden going to be the next president. And again, I think it's going to happen. Yeah, I think it's going to happen. I think it's going to happen. It's all going to unravel. And Joe Biden's going to have I don't know, a senior moment. And Kamala Harris could be, listen, I'm telling you, all of those things we worry about doesn't matter. Doesn't. I wish it did, but it doesn't. China is so far ahead, and they're flexing their muscle. I mean, think about just like their military and what they've done. I mean, they're building aircraft carriers like they're going out of style. They just keep popping them out. But now here we are. We're sitting here and we're watching this revolution of a country who, 25, 30 years ago only paid in cash. There's been a revolution in China. China now leads the world in cashless payments. They say that China's development was introduced by apps like WeChat, right? One of the ones that we banned, this WeChat. Alipay, right? That's their version of Amazon. Right? Alipay. They form an extra layer between the banks and the customers and now have a collective market share of more than 90% of Chinese payments. You heard me right. And it was so funny. I was talking to Dylan. Dylan runs Liberty Revolt, and he was telling me, he goes, yeah, you don't have your cell phone? You're not buying anything in China. You're not getting on the subway, right? You're not buying a pack of gum. I mean, you're not buying anything there. The Chinese cashless payment system is already able to settle over 100,000 transactions a second. Wow. And I think that they're going to be able to do millions a second. They said against the backdrop of the Bank of China, the central bank has taken the initiative to develop its own digital currency known as the Digital Currency Electronic Payment, DCEP. It's the digital alternative to banknotes. They said that they have the same value as the renminbi. And this is where, this is where it lies. See, they're so good. So when you're sitting there and you're looking at this, right? Hey, whatever this is valued at, that's what the renminbi's worth. See, we always used to think back, going back to the early 2000s and even into the early or late 90s, right? Remember the Amero? Right? We thought, we're going to have the Amero, right? Where Canada, us, and Mexico, and your bank account, you'd have $10,000 in your bank account, and maybe when we went to the Amero, you'd have 1,000. See, the bankers were wise. They were wise. They're like, man, that's going to really, people are going to be upset, right? Everyone's going to be mad. With digital now, they don't have to do anything other. Well, you still got 10,000. But with the digital, how they make it up is now that $10,000 only buys half as much. You know that inflation that they can never seem to get? Let me ask you something. Do any of you out there even believe inflation's 2%? Do you? Have you bought a new car lately? I mean, who would buy a new car? I mean, it's crazy, right? A new car used to be what a house cost. Right? Really, if you go back 50 years, a new car today, right, would buy 2 houses 50 years ago. Maybe even 3, depends on how fancy you got, right? You can easily, and I'm not talking about buying Lambos, okay? I'm just talking about buying the top-of-the-line pickup truck. You could probably get 3 houses, maybe 4 houses 50 years ago. And yet they say that we just can't quite get 2% inflation. Now they want it to be more than 2%. So how much do you think? Because you know what they're going to get it with the digital currency. How? Double, tell me how. They just make it buy less in the world. They don't have to touch an interest rate. They don't have to worry about Fed's funds rates. They don't have to worry about treasury markets. They don't have to have official meetings. They just devalue. And they keep devaluing until they get what they want. And think about this, in the next 5 years, right, our debt's going to, double, maybe triple? We're at about 2% or 3% or 4%. Yeah, get ready. Patriot Radio News Hour. We'll be back right after the break. $800-951-0592. Gold, 1883. Silver. Silver's up like 75 cents today. 26.54. 26.54. The Dow is up a couple of hundred points. I got a really interesting little. I didn't know we were running Indians, a lot of Indians. We are out of the 3 little Indians, the 5s and the 10s. I don't have any more of those, but I've got like 35 $2.50 Indians. They're like half of a quarter of an ounce at $390, $390, something, really, really fractional, super cool looking coin. Something a little different at 800-951-0592, the $2.50 Indian. As we're getting ready. By the way, just a couple of things. Metals plans are going to start rolling out really in the heart of next week. I will be off tomorrow and Wednesday, and I'm actually leaving right after the show today. I'll be off tomorrow and Wednesday. Patriot is closed Thursday and Friday. Jason and Brian are going to fill in for me over the next two shows on Tuesday and Wednesday. And then we'll have some repeats Thursday and Friday. Then we'll be back, get back to the 5 days a week again, starting on Monday, the following Monday, a week from today. And like I said, the metals plans, for those of you waiting on those are going to really, we may get a few out in the next couple of days, but really next week, we want to try to be done with those by the 10th. That's our goal anyway, as close to it as possible. So kind of keep you updated there. We appreciate all the support. Listen, 2021, whether we like it or not, the vaccine is coming. Matter of fact, I just had a friend take round 1. Got a really bad headache, but seemingly seems to be okay. But he's a healthcare worker. But that's coming. I think that before the year is out, hopefully, knock, knock, we're through this. Here's the problem. COVID was a blip. All as it did, really, was shorten the time we have. Right? Look at what happened with China in 1 year. They gained 5. They're going to be the largest economy every way you measure it. They're already the largest. Right? No one consumes more oil, no one, cars, metal, concrete, copper, blah, 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 blah. But in dollar terms, in every term. And the digital currency, according to, if anyone would know, I would think it would be the Japanese, because they don't like each other very much. 2022. So all it's done, we've got less time to prepare. Make sure you're ready. Make sure you're ready, right? You know, an ounce of gold for every year you've been alive is a really good rule of thumb. If you want to make a big purchase, call us. We can help you. We give volume discounts all the time. 800-951-0592. Patriot Radio News Hour. God bless everybody. Jason and Brian are going to take over. I'll be back next Monday. Take care of yourselves. Happy New Year.
This program was sponsored by the Patriot Trading Group.